Hi folks, and thanks once again for joining me in my YouTube channel, the Bushcraft Padawan. Today you find me recording this video not on the south coast of England, which is where I live, but actually this week, I'm away on business in the beautiful city of Boston, Massachusetts, USA. So I'm recording this video in a beautiful Boston common on a very, very cold Sunday morning. It was about -4 or 5 when I arrived yesterday evening, and I think it's risen to a positively balmy -1 or 2 at the moment. If you've watched my introductory YouTube video, you'll have seen me talk about the fact that during 2016 I've been doing a lot of reading on the subject of bushcraft and all of those topics and subjects that fall underneath that umbrella term. When I was flying over here on the plane yesterday evening from London Heathrow, I was also continuing that reading as well. And I thought to myself it'd be a good idea to actually not post a review, because I'm not wanting to give him book reviews or anything like that, but just to sort of give my insights and my thoughts around 2 of the books that I've been reading from Dave Canterbury. So let's give that a try, shall we? So the first book that I've read from Dave Canterbury is Bushcraft 101, and I read this back in 2016. Very, very simple book to read, written for the common man. Doesn't go into a great deal of intricate theoretical detail. It's very much a how to get up and running in the subject of bushcraft book. Dave, I think himself mentioned this in this book, or the follow-up book, that he sees it around people being able to go out and self-sustain in the woods for a few days, maybe up to a week. He's got a great term that he uses several times, which is smoothing it. Anybody can go out into the wilderness and rough it. That's quite easy to do, but it takes a much different character and a very different set of thinking and skill sets and approaches to going out there and smoothing it, which I think is a great term that Dave uses. So about the book itself, okay, I didn't find this book that useful, if I'm being really honest. Now, before all of the Dave Canterbury fans that are out there jump on my case and tear me limb from saying that, let me explain, let me give some context. I'd already spent many hours going through Dave's YouTube channel, pouring through all of the hundreds and hundreds of videos and playlists that he's got on there. So by the time it came to reading this, I actually feel that I'd heard Dave talk and show and demonstrate everything that was covered in this book. I'd already heard Dave talk about it and demonstrate it. In fact, there were some phrases and some terms that Dave uses in here that I've heard him use many times in his YouTube videos. It was quite weird, really. As I was reading it, I was actually reading it in Dave's voice. Dave's voice was kind of reading out from the pages to me. It was quite spooky. So I'm not saying it's a terrible book at all. I'm not saying that. It is a very useful book. It's a very handy book. It's a very useful reference book. But in terms of learning anything from it, I have to be honest, I'd already picked that up from the man himself, from Dave Canterbury, in his YouTube channels. And that, I think, is an interesting point for development around this book. Where I think this book could have been even more valuable, and would be even more valuable possibly in later reprints, is to link through to some of Dave's videos where he's talking about things. So if this is talking about water filtration, for example, why not put a QR code in this book on the page that talks about water filtration? Why not put a shortened URL on the page so that I can not only read about what Dave's talking about, but actually I can scan the QR code and I can type in the shortened URL and actually watch a video that will probably expand in a little more detail, possibly a lot more detail, what Dave's talking about. Now, that may have already been considered by Dave or his publishers, and it may be a no-go area, I don't know. But it would seem like a great enhancement to this book for those people that come to the book first and haven't yet discovered Dave on YouTube. I think it would be a great way of increasing his YouTube viewing figures to use this book as a launching point for getting people into his channel. So Bushcraft 101, a cracking book, whether you're into camping, glamping, wilderness camping, wild camping, bushcraft, survival skills, prepping, whatever you want to call it. If you're geared into getting the most out of your time outdoors, finding out a little bit more about the outdoors, this, I've got to say, is a great starting point, as is Dave's video channel himself, Bushcraft 101. So moving on to the second book of Dave's that I'm reading, which is Advanced Bushcraft. Now I must admit I'm only maybe a third to halfway through this book, so I've not read it in its entirety, but I'd once again echo that point that I made about the Bushcraft 101 book. I think it will be a very quick, very simple, very impactful, a very cheap way of being able to link the book to Dave's YouTube channel. He's already created the videos, he's put a lot of time and effort into them. It doesn't seem like a great stretch to use the book to connect people to those videos where it's contextually relevant within a section or a chapter or a page of the book. It seems like quite a logical thing to do, but as I said before, Dave and his publishers have maybe already considered that, and maybe there's a viable reason for not doing that. One thing I did notice here though is that Dave references lots of the trees that are native to his area of the US, and I found that a bit disconcerting not being in the US. Not because he's referencing the trees and he knows what he knows and he's referring to the things that he can speak about in confidence, and who can knock that. But where I found it a little disconcerting was I didn't know what those trees were. It would have been great if you could have put in the Latin name for those trees so that I could then have looked them up and seen were they native to the UK? Were they native to the UK but actually went under a completely different common name of the tree, as often happens, often around the world, the same plant species, possibly the same flora, fauna, plants and trees may go by a different name, even though they're the same, even though they're the same tree, the same species. So it would have been useful to have the Latin terms in the book to enable me to do some research and see if they were local to me, and see if what Dave was telling me about the trees in this book I could apply to that same tree, albeit by a different name, back in the UK. So once again, Advanced Bushcraft and Bushcraft 101, both by Dave Canterbury, both very good reads, very simple reads, very easy reads, very quick reads, great reference books to dive back into. The only comment I would have about them, and it's not a criticism, it's not a dig at Dave or anything like that before anybody gets on my case, it's not that, just an observation of mine, given the field that I work in, which is learning technologies. It would be great to see these books have some sort of link to Dave's YouTube channels to help the reader get even more out of them, and obviously help Dave increase his YouTube viewing figures. So once again, a big thanks for watching this video. If you go back and have a look at this video again, you might find up here every now and then a little squirrel pops his head around the corner of the tree. I've noticed him when I was setting the camera up that he was there, and I did wonder whether or not he'd put an appearance in, and I've seen at the corner of my eye several times in the viewfinder on the camera that he's done just that. So if you've missed it, possibly go back, have another look again, and you'll see him pop his head around the corner of the tree. Huge thank you for watching this video. The channel's just starting to gain momentum now. If you've got something out of this video, please feel free to like the video, share the video. It would be great if you could subscribe as well, as I've got more and more ideas for videos that I want to put out there. But once again, a big thank you for tuning in, big thank you for watching, and a very cold and frosty farewell from Boston, Massachusetts, USA, wherever you are. Thanks for watching.